Hi everyone, you reached Chronicles of the Gray Hair Diva. Thanks for joining me tonight live. I'm here to talk about a movie I saw on Netflix called Really Love. It's a really good story, and you're going to see me looking down every now and then just so I can read you some information here. I'm trying to pull it back up. So it's really a love story about an up and coming artist who meets a law student and they try to navigate their way through love, relationship, trying to build their career at the same time. And they're a young couple, and it goes through the friendships that they have also. So I'm going to bring up Chef Kev so we can kind of chat about this movie together. So hold on one second, guys. Hey, hey,
What's up?
what's
How's
going
everybody?
on?
What's going on?
You sound a little muffled there. I don't know if you did something different with your mic.
No. It still
All
sounds
right, we'll
muffled.
keep. Yeah, it sounds like muffled a little bit, but we'll keep going. I'll let you know how as we go through, like how it sounds, and um, if I'm not hearing the concepts or whatever that you're bringing up. So this movie, Really Love. I mean, it's an excellent movie on Netflix. I was trying to look it up because I didn't write it down, this which is terrible. But I'm gonna say it's about an hour and 30 minutes, right? So it's not too bad. It's not that long. It's about an hour and 30 minutes. And like I said, it tells the story of a young couple that meet. Um, he is an up and coming artist. She is a law student from a prominent family. So let's add that in there because it's going to be somewhat of importance to the conversation and everything that they're going through. So she's a law student from a prominent family. He comes from, I guess, a middle class background, not as prominent as her background and her family, and they kind of meet up and they're together. So some pointers we're going to talk about and start with this conversation is, you know, it was a lot of friendships in this movie, and what I did like about it is, all the friends were rooting for each other. Um, when he called her his girlfriend for the first time, we're going to get into that. When she asked him to move in, we're going to get into that. How she didn't tell her parents until the day he was going to meet her parents that they were living together. How he missed an important event, and then how he later put a little dig on her family and the money. So we're going to get into it. It's a lot of topics, as I stated, that we can kind of talk about. So the first topic I kind of want to talk about is how they met. um, what did you think, Kev, about how they met and how, they kind of got to know each other through the dating and that whole scene?
It was a cool situation because he's an artist and she was into art. So it wasn't a situation where,
So Kev, your mic is really bad. I don't know if you did something different, but it's muffled.
hold on one second,
Yep, you sound a little bit robotic there.
robotic. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, Let me check my settings.
check your settings because it's like giving a lot of feedback.
Can you hear me?
I hear you, but the thing is, it's not a clear. It's like muffled.
Is it still muffled?
That sounds better.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
much better.
Okay. So, back to they met in a setting where she's into art because she was at the art gallery and he's an
Hmm.
artist. And what I liked about that was he didn't have to introduce her to his field, his world. She was already somewhat part of it. Even though she's not an artist, she does go to art exhibits and, local artists. So that right there made things, I think, a little bit somewhat easier, or her trying to understand him. And then when he wows her and sends her the painting, You know what I mean? It was an easy thing to do because he knew she was into art. So that was, so that was a good icebreaker. And then her calling him over to hang up the picture and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was, and like I said, they had kind of the same circle of friends. They kind of hang out in the same area. You know, they
Well, let
enjoy.
me let me let me jump in a little bit because you kind of now I'm sounding a little my mic sounds off. That's weird.
No, it don't.
It doesn't to you?
No.
Okay. So I'll say this before we get into like you jumped a lot of pieces there. They did meet at the art gallery, but when they met at the art well, they bumped into each other. I'm gonna say at the art gallery. So where they actually met and ended up like getting together was through his friend.
Mhm.
Her girlfriend was friends with the main character, and she, goes to meet them out, and that's how he gets reintroduced to her again.
Mhm.
So that's how they had ended up being in the same circle of friends because she was the girlfriend to his girlfriend.
Mhm.
And so they all met up, and that's how they ended up, really meeting and kind of hooking up. The thing that is so great about this movie is it shows you from the beginning all the way to the end the intense, authentic connection that they had almost from the first meeting.
Mhm.
So that was something that was really great about the meeting. What I also loved about this movie is the casting was on point. The main male character, he actually is from the show Queen Sugar from the OWN channel. I don't know how many people kind of watch that show. Um, Queen Sugar. So he's from that. And I just noticed that this girl, she actually is, I believe there's a new show coming out called Our Kind of People. And I think she is a main character on that particular show. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if I could get hooked on like another show, but I may have to check her out because I absolutely loved her. I fell in love with her from this movie, Really Love. She's a phenomenal actress. She's absolutely beautiful. And that was the other thing that I loved about this movie is that everyone they cast in this movie was just, phenomenal. The clothing director or the what do you call that? The wardrobe specialist
Stylist
or the
or however
stylist,
you call
the stylist was absolutely amazing. They just did a good job overall. And if I had to rate the movie from a 1 to 10, I'm giving it a 9.5, and we'll get to this point later on. And the only reason why I'm giving it a 9.5 and not a 10 out of a 10 is because the ending, I wanted to jump through my TV and just break it. But as I watched it again, because I had to watch it again so we can do this review on it, um, I started to understand why they ended it the way they ended it, but I do wish that they would have gave us a different ending. So I just wanted to give everybody more of a background as to how they got together, but also how the people who directed and wrote this movie, they gave us so much I guess I don't know what I want to call it, but they gave us so much so that we could connect to these two as a character, as a couple, and so that we can fall in love with them while they was falling in love with each other. Hey, Latia. So they gave us the opportunity to fall in love with them as a couple, and it just really worked extremely well. Like you saw their connection from the moment they met, and it just kind of built up from that particular point. So that's what I really loved about them. So yes, I think by the time they started dating and when he sent her the piece of artwork, I think what connected so well with that is yes, she was into the arts and she loved it, but it was like at the time too because they were both, I'm gonna guess I would say like kind of, and for lack of a better word, they were struggling a little bit because they was both building their careers at the time. They wasn't into their careers yet, so they was both trying to
She
build
wasn't
their
struggling.
career.
She wasn't struggling.
Well, she wasn't struggling, but she hadn't built her career yet. But she wasn't struggling because she came from money. Um, Her family was supporting her as she was building her career to be a lawyer. So she didn't want for anything, but he was a struggling artist, and for him to take a piece of his artwork and send it to her and give it to her, it was heartfelt. That I really thought that was like a nice thing. So as they get to really become a couple and they're getting to know each other and they're hanging out with each other every single night, this is the big part we need to talk about, where she says to him, you know what, he had his own place and she had her own place. So, but his studio was his actual living space. So he couldn't afford to have an art studio in his living space. So it was all one. So she pretty much told him, look, we see each other every night anyway. We're together all the time. There go my 24 hours I was talking about, 24/7. She's like, we're together all the time. You might as well just stay here. So just move in. So my question to you, Kev, is if this was a situation that you were in, or you had a friend that was in this situation and their girl said, move in, what would your advice be and what would you do?
No, no, because I didn't think. I mean, in the movie, it helped him out because he used his place as a studio, so he still kept that. So that was a good thing. But at the same time, um, him coming because, like I said, he was struggling, so he had no money to contribute to the bills, and that can always be an issue. There's a scene where he didn't even have $20 for gas money. You know what I mean? So it could be an issue. Not saying she wanted his money; she wanted him. She never made reference to the money. So I will say that. But if I saw, I was like, nah, don't do it, don't do it. I mean, to each his own, but I would suggest don't do it.
So you wouldn't have done it. You would
No,
have said no.
no.
And what would have been your reasoning behind saying no?
I'm not moving to anyone unless we're married. But we're on that level, we're on that page, or we're going that route. Relationship was too new. It was still in the new stages, and I mean, that was quickly jumping the gun.
So you feel there's a time limit, there's a time, I guess, frame on how close you can be to somebody and the speed of what you should do in your relationship. Because you're saying the relationship was too new, it was too soon.
Well,
So
and
that
well, based on the movie, because you're dealing with young people, you know, an older couple, I wouldn't have word to say. You're over 30 plus years old. That's on you. You're clearly in their 20s. They were a young couple. I would suggest that no. You know what I mean? Because like I said, you're a young couples in new stages. You're older, you're our age. You can move it the day after y'all meet. That's on y'all. I have nothing to say. You know what I mean? But for me, um,
but what's the difference though? Hey Tam.
hey girl, uh, the difference, like I said, it was just I think when
So
you're
you're just
younger,
saying age. You're just saying
yeah,
age.
age.
But here's my thing. Regardless of the age, a feeling is a feeling, right? So
Hmm.
you're saying because a couple is older, like they could just make different decisions about when you should move in or not move in.
No,
I mean, if you're feeling somebody, you're feeling somebody, right? And
mhm,
clearly well, here's the thing. Do you believe in soulmates? Because
mhm,
clearly the way that their relationship was portrayed in this movie, they were like soulmates, right? And so because she wasn't, it depends on the people. Yes, it definitely depends on the people. So because they were soulmates,
mhm,
I view it a little bit differently. My reasoning for saying that he should have probably held back is one because he couldn't make no contribution to that household, even though she never brought that up and she understood it and she knew it. But
mhm.
as a man, because he know he wouldn't have been able to make no contribution to that household. That's why I would have said he should have said no. But
Hmm.
if he was able in their particular situation in this movie, is he was able to contribute to that household, I would have said go for it, move in. Why? Because their connection was something that you don't get every single day. It's something that just doesn't happen just to anybody. They were definitely, in my opinion, the way the movie played out, they were soulmates. So, and because he also, we didn't mention this, he has another a friend, and we'll bring this subject up in a minute. He has a friend that's an artist, and his friend that is an artist that is successful, he told him, he said, look, you need to have your studio space, and your studio space should not be your home space. They need to be separate, because that's how you're going, and I'm paraphrasing, that's how you're going to have your creative juices flowing. So I get in the movie why he said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move in, because it gave him the opportunity to have this, studio space in his living space. And in addition to that, they was in each other's face every night anyway. So he was staying there technically, but he would just leave and come back. So it's almost like, what was the difference? But I do get your standpoint on that. But I think, Latia said it best. It depends on the people. It depends on the couple. It depends on the situation. So, I get that. So when he asked her, when she asked him to move in, he did ask her. So I'll pull back a little bit. He did ask her. He said, "Do you think we're ready for this?" And she said, yes.
Hmm.
So he had the what is that? Is that noise on your side? And he had the opportunity at that particular point to say, no, or whatever the case may be. But he just went along with it, and he moved in. So he moved in, and when he moved in, the relationship was going well up until a certain point. And when he moved in, before he moved in, he was very attentive to her feelings. He was dating her. They were going out. He was making time for both his art and for her. Once he moved in, his time was strictly to his craft, to his art. Do you want to speak about that?
Well, that's what happens when you move in and when you get married. I mean, because it becomes more of a situation where you get comfortable. And I understand he was getting ready for the show, so I'm not saying that that would not have happened. Um, Once he was getting closer to the show, I don't know if they moved in before he got offered his own show. I can't remember. Um,
It was
I
it
don't
was
really.
before. It was
It was,
before.
they moved. Okay, so once he got offered his own show, then his own what you call it art show. And then he was putting all his work into that art. Which I don't have a problem with because he was trying to make it pop. The only issue I have with that situation is when he lost track of time, quote unquote, for the dance recital, the Ivan Alley dance recital. I thought that was very inconsiderate. Uh, my thought process is somebody paid for those tickets, whether it was $2 or $200, somebody paid for those tickets. And so to
Right.
me, if you're not going to contribute and offer, say, like the release of reimbursement for the tickets, that was just a wrong thing. And when I
But
remember
he didn't
watching,
have the money to reimburse for the tickets.
yeah,
So let's talk about that for 1 minute. So there's several problems with the situation. One is he was dating her, and he made full time for her before he moved in, and he was still trying to be this artist, and he had to work on his craft. Once he moved in, he kind of took her for granted. And it was like, she just needs to understand that, when I'm in the studio, I just lose track of time. Well, you were in the studio before you moved in, and you didn't lose total track of time like you're losing now. So that's one issue. Issue number two is, as you stated, um, the parents. But before we get to that piece of it, how did you feel about they already was living together and now they're going to meet her parents and she's telling him at the steps of her parents' house, well, I never told my parents that we were living together.
Well, that was a blindsided thing to tell your parents. You know, like once he gets there, I mean, you should have warned ahead of time. The second thing was, I thought, I mean, his mannerisms was good, but I thought he was, I didn't like the way he was dressed to meet her parents. I thought he should have been more, you know, I don't want to call it professional, but just
He
more
could have did
dressy.
better.
He could have did better. Because they showed the scene where they came from church, so I know he got church clothes. You could have put on a nice shirt, some slacks, and walked up in there. Um, but it's neither here nor there, I guess. But he went out there, but I don't think. I guess she told her parents face to yeah, but she could have told them at a different time. Like she just basically told them why he was there, and he wasn't ready for it, and they wasn't ready for it, and it was just like a real awkward situation. The scene felt awkward just looking at it, like, oh my God, you felt like, really, this is what we're doing. So I mean, she could have handled
Well,
that
the
better.
thing was awkward because her dad, because she came from a very prominent family, and her dad was like, he moved in your house. So the dad first of all, the dad already looked him up and down when he met him. It was
Which
sizing
most
him up,
dads will do.
right? It was sizing him up, and so now you sitting there telling dad that I moved in your house. It was a whole problem. So that's what made him not making it to the recital that obviously her parents paid for the tickets, and you got her parents paying for these tickets. Her parents are going to be at that recital also, and then you stand her up. So it's called the alarm on your smartphone. You can get caught up. I get it. You getting caught up in your craft, and maybe you're all into the midst of painting this picture, and you want to finish, but it's one night. Set your alarm. Tell yourself you're going to stop an hour early and get to this recital to meet her. But
But how much of
go
a
ahead.
flow was he? Do you remember the scene?
Yes, go ahead. Say that again.
Do you remember the scene?
Uh huh.
How much of a flow when he was sitting there balling up the paint things and throwing them to the side because he was frustrated? What kind of flow
Oh,
was
you
you
could
in?
be thinking. You could be in your head trying to figure out. You could be in your head trying to figure out exactly like what to do, how to get out of your rut. So, but my thing is, his phone was obviously on silence because all of her calls, it wasn't buzzing. It wasn't
Hmm.
buzzing in the scene. So like all of her calls and her messages was just kind of like going into a queue, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, but the bigger issue is, even though I like the way she handled it, I think she should have just spoke about it then. So when he came home, once he missed the recital, first of all, I said she's a good woman because she's in there cooking. I'm not cooking nobody nothing. I'm pissed, right? So I thought she was a good woman because she was in there cooking him some dinner because I'm sure she already ate with her parents. So she was cooking, but also she didn't start an argument. She was just like, it's all good. It's okay. I know she was pissed, but I commend her for not, having an argument right then and there. And I double commend her for making him something to eat because she didn't have to do that.
True, but you know what? That leads to my other thing, which not kind of pissed me off. And when he finally went to the exhibit and he didn't thank
So
her.
wait one second. So Latia is saying, in your opinion, they didn't communicate well.
No,
Um, the communication started to break down at a certain point. And I think it definitely started to break down at that particular point right there, you are right. I do agree with you because there's other scenes where you could tell they just didn't communicate well. And that scene where they're sitting on the couch and she's talking about taking that job in Chicago. She
Hmm.
didn't want to go. He didn't want her to go, but neither one of them expressed themselves that way. And
Hmm.
that's where the breakdown came and they had the big fight and, so forth and so on. But we'll get back to that. Let's see. Go ahead, Kevin. What was you going to say?
What I'm saying is that let's to the scene where he stands up there and he really didn't thank anybody. He thanked the lady who gave him the opportunity for the show. He didn't even thank his boy who
Well,
put
you're
him on.
jumping, so we got to lead into that scene, right?
Yeah, but
So,
it's just but after what she did and after what he did and everything, that's the least thing he could have done was thank her. I thought that was the least thing he could have did was thank her because he doesn't have his
so
own
we
studio
so we
without
got to
her.
lead up to that scene, though, Kevin. Is what I'm saying. So you're talking about when, okay, so the get back one, like when she was in the house, again, although she didn't communicate well, I do believe in that at that particular moment she did the best she could to avoid an argument because that could have been a nasty, filthy argument. One, your parents done paid for these tickets. Two, how dare you not show up? Okay. Three, I'm pissed. And like I said, he would have got a sandwich or something out the refrigerator at best. I don't know what he would have got, but I wouldn't have been standing there cooking no whole meal. So she's a good woman. But when he did get his show, like you're saying, and he created all the pictures for his first show, and he had the opportunity to say thank you to, whoever supported him to that particular point. She was standing there, and I felt like she actually was waiting for him to say, thank you to her. And the only person he physically said thank you to was his agent, I'm gonna call her, that helped him get the show and that supported him with getting the show. But it's like she is the one that allowed you to pretty much have your home as your studio. So you don't say thank you to her. But not only that, he kind of picked me off because he didn't even say thank you to his friend who introduced him to the agent, so that he can even have the show. So again, that's just another form of, not having the proper communication tools because you not only didn't thank your girlfriend, but you didn't even thank the friend that introduced you to the agent that got you the solo artist show.
Hmm. True.
But before we get to that, I think it was at that show, um, or maybe it was a show before. Now I can't remember. But I wrote down my note that at one of the shows or one of the events, he called her when he introduced her to the guy. It wasn't his show. It was a show they was at, and that's when he found out that he may get his own solo show soon. He said, "This is my girlfriend." And so she was very kind of, I don't want to say hung up on the words, but the words touched her because later on that night, when
Hmm.
they was sitting on the stoop, she was like, "You call me your girlfriend in there." So that brings up a good point because you mentioned like dating when you're
Hmm.
older. When do people establish like this is going to be, we're in this relationship where it's just us? Is it just an unspoken word? Or does someone physically say, like, listen, it's just us. I'm
Uh,
considering you my lady. I'm considering you my girlfriend. How does it work?
I mean, once they're spending time together, they're exclusive. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't have to have a long, drawn out conversation. You don't have to say, "Do you want to go with me?" I mean, you just spending time with her. Y'all been spending.
but but
You know,
something should be established. Should the person just assume?
well, she never got but that was the way of getting confirmation. And I remember, if you remember Steve Harvey's book, "Think Like a Man, Act Like a Lady," when he says a man professes himself, when he says, like, if you go into the cookout and he go, "This is my friend," you know where you stand. You know, but if he sits there and he's bold enough to say, "This is my girlfriend," she ain't had a problem with it.
Well, no, I
So
know she didn't have a problem with it. That's not what I'm saying. Whether she obviously she was in awe with that. She
yeah,
admired that. What I'm saying to you is, I haven't seen the show. However, it sounds like he was selfish and self-centered and inconsiderate, ungrateful for her support and friend support. You know, you gotta watch it, Tim. You know what? He was in some situations, yes, he was all of the above, but I will say this, he really did love her and he didn't know how to express himself. And that's a major problem with a lot of people. And the lack of communication can be the death of a relationship. So what I'm saying to you is, Kevin, there are people that play on words, okay?
hmm
And they play on words to their convenience. So what I'm saying to you is, whether you're dating young, whether you're dating older, we're just going to talk straight dating. How
hmm
do you know? Does there have to be a conversation to say that, you and the other person are exclusive? Or should it be known because of certain things that y'all do? If you are with this person every night, you're hanging together all the time. So the assumption in their head be we're exclusive, or does there have to be a physical conversation to say it's just us?
well, that depends on the couple. I mean, it makes sense to be a conversation, but if you sitting there and you spending time with this person, and then he introduces you as his girlfriend, he says, "This is my girl, this is my lady," whatever. Um, your reaction is the next thing. If you feel like, okay, we never discussed this, but do we need to? I don't know how that works. I mean, I've had situations where we had discussions. I've had situations where we didn't have discussions, and we were just dating. And so, um, it depends on the couple, depends on the timing. I think we know. I mean, sometimes
I
if
hear
some,
you, girlfriend. For
um,
me, we need to clearly communicate our status, and that's what I'm talking about.
he
I
did
think,
communicate the status. He said, "This is my girlfriend." So if she had a problem with it, she should have spoken
yeah,
up.
but
But he
she
didn't.
didn't. He said it, but she didn't know before that how she felt, Kevin, and so where she stood. So what I'm saying is, as we're saying communication is key, and I think it should be clearly communicated. What are we doing here? What's going on, so that I'm not in the dark, the other person's not in the dark, no assumptions are being made, and everybody's clear as to where they stand and what they're doing. Yeah, she wasn't clear about it. She wasn't clear about it at all. And that's why she felt so good. Like, she was like, "You call me your girlfriend in there. Like, that's where we stand. That's where we at." Like, she was truly into him and he was into her. Um, I think it should be a conversation because people look at things differently. Yes. Yes. So just to be on the safe side, talk 100%. 100%. Because one party in the couple could be thinking they're exclusive, and the other person thinking, "Well, where'd you get that from? I never said that." Okay, yeah, I was here every night, but so what? What does that mean? And so when another party is involved or is in the situation, the other person can turn to you and say, "Well, we never said we was exclusive, so I'm going out tonight with so and so."
hmm
I do think it should be spoken. I think, especially when you adults and you doing adult things, you should have adult conversations and say, "This is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it," so that nothing is assumed.
hmm
um so yeah, so she was in awe when he said that, and that was her clue or indication about how he felt. But he never really clearly threw out the thing, and that's why they ended up in the situation they was in. He never clearly said, "This is how I felt," and she never clearly said it either. So I'm not throwing it all on him. She never clearly spoke her feelings either. So if we want to move, I want to talk a little bit about the parents,
hmm
for both sides, and and the reason why he probably was the way he was, and the reason why she was the way she was. So his parents was totally against. Well, I don't want to say his parents. I'm gonna say
No.
dad. I'm gonna say dad. Dad was against this whole artist thing because he wanted him to just make money already.
Yeah.
Okay. And then her parents were into, I'm going to say, prestige and, you get your degree. And her mother wholeheartedly was like, because she pretty much called him astray. Because at dinner, she said, there's other ways to help people. You can volunteer. That was a dig at him. um to pretty much say like, you got this man, he done moved in with you, he don't have a job, he's not about nothing, he's not really doing anything, he called himself an artist. And she said, I know you like to help people, but you can volunteer. So it was a little dig towards him or whatever. And then she did with other scenes where the mother pretty much told her, I had my soulmate too, but my soulmate wasn't ready, so I got with your father who was ready. So she was pretty much constantly throwing stuff in her ear to
Yeah.
make her lean towards leaving him just because of the state that he was currently in. So they both had their parents, that they were combating with. Um, in the midst of them trying to learn each other and grow their relationship, they had a little chatter in their ear. But I will say this, although she had that chatter in her ears, she was still pretty strong.
On her
Um,
decision.
the, the chatter only impacted her when he started to act the monkey nut fool. When he started to act the fool, that's when the chatter impacted her a little bit more. And it was like, okay, wait a minute. All he's thinking about is self. So I got to think about myself.
But
But
I don't think it was chatter. It's more of a reaction.
say that
It was
again.
more of a reaction because if you notice when they were on the couch and she brought up Chicago, and when she brought up Chicago, he was like, "Yeah, take it." And so when they got to the bedroom, and she was already heated because he said, "Take it." And then when he tried to get him a little taste, and she was like, "No, I'm not feeling you right now."
But hold on right there,
And
Kevin. Hold on right there.
but,
The piece that you kind of glazed over was when they were both on the couch. Again, I'll go back to Latia where she's saying they neither one of them communicated well.
no,
When you see the reactions of both of them sitting on the couch, when she brought it up, what she really wanted was for him to say, "Don't go."
don't go.
You
Yeah.
can see you can see the reaction in her face when he was like, and when he even said it to her, what he really wanted to say is, I don't want you to go,
Hmm.
but I also don't want you to be resentful of me if you don't go. But
Hmm.
neither one of them communicated that. He
Hmm.
told her to, he told her it sound like this is what you wanted, you should go. So now her feelings are hurt because you know what she was thinking in her head? Well, he don't even really love me like that because he's telling me to go. Okay. What was he thinking in his head, in my mind? He's telling her to go, one, because he knows she has these prestigious parents. Okay. Two, she's in law school. And three, he doesn't want her to ever regret or to put it back in his face that he said don't go for this opportunity. They could have both communicated that. But instead they didn't. They threw shots. Okay. So now she's pissed in her feelings. He's in his
Hmm.
feelings, and then they end up in the bedroom. So here's the thing to me with females. I know I'm like this. If I'm pissed at you, nothing's going down. Nothing's going down. Nothing's going down while I'm pissed. So you can kick rocks with all that. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Don't try it. Good night.
Oh,
Shut
this is
off
my
the
life.
light, and it's all done. So I
Hmm.
think so they were pissed at each other, and he coming in the room after you done told me to go to Chicago, and you ain't saying you love me. Stay. You gonna tell me go to Chicago now? You gonna try to get you some? No, 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 sir.
But it wasn't.
Yes,
What I'm
there you go,
saying is
Latia. Thank you. Thank you. He told her
what
what
she
he
thought he
thought
was.
she wanted to hear.
Yeah.
100%. Hundred
But
percent.
but that wasn't no chatter. That was her mother said something about when she decided to check out Chicago when it was running. She said, "I'm going to Chicago for the interview." But that decision she made was basically off of his reaction because they was in the bedroom and they got into it. and she said, "I'm going to Chicago." He said, "Oh, you weren't gonna tell me? I guess I'm the last to know." And so
No.
that you could tell that reaction wasn't based on chatter. That was based on what was going on. It was she threw that shot out there at him because she was already upset when she laid in that bed because of what he said. So when she said, "I'm going to Chicago," they was already in an argument, and at that point I felt she was personally trying to piss him off. You know, sometimes you get mad, you want to piss him off. So that's
Yeah.
what happens.
Oftentimes if someone really loves you, they will encourage you to grab the opportunity before you, because they don't want to be the reason why you miss a great opportunity. 100%. And I think that is part of what his issue was too. It was a mixture of that. He didn't want her to look back and be like, she didn't go. If later on she would have got mad and she would have been like, I didn't go and you told me not to go, that could have been a whole nother issue.
Well,
So,
let me ask you a question though.
yes,
If you got a girlfriend in that situation, what would you tell her?
about going for her opportunity.
Hmm.
Oh, 100%. I would tell her you should go. But I will also say to her is that because they're young, I would have said, y'all can still be together. There's plans. Like, y'all could have still, because they already established their relationship before it was time for her to go out in Chicago. It's not like they just met. Now, if they just met, that would have been a whole nother ballgame, right? They already established a good relationship before she was going to go to Chicago. So you fly back and forth. So you do 2 years or 3 years at this law firm. He's building up his art career, and y'all just fly back and forth. And then whoever is more successful in whatever spot at the time being, that's where the other person goes and lives. So
Hmm.
yeah, I would have definitely told her you got to go for it, because you need to, as when you're young and you're building up your career, you got to hit different spots. You got to see what you really like, and you're not going to know unless you do it. That
Hmm.
was partly backed up anger, yep, from not expressing herself every time she was upset. 100%, Latia. That was her other issue. She held it in. Because, like I said, she did good after he missed that recital. She did better, more woman than I would have been. She did better than me. She did way better than me. Because he was trying to talk about it. She was like, no, it's good. I said, it's okay. It's good. And like I said, she was cooking him food. She was way better than me in that particular point. So yes, it
You
was backed
petty.
up. It was backed up anger, and that. But that scene that played out. That's why I said whoever directed this and wrote this, they did it very well, because I think it happens with couples all the time. I think it happens more often than not. So that argument where she told him to get out, that really had nothing to do with, she was just pissed, and she was, she didn't know how else to express herself, and so she was like, get out, but that's not what she meant. You can tell right after she said it, she was almost like, why did I do this, why did I say it? But he did not help the situation, because for the first time he threw up in her face. Also, he threw up the whole money situation about her and her family. He
Hmm.
was like, look, he pretty much told her, look, you can fail. You can fail out of law school. You cannot get a job. You good because your parents got your back. He said, I don't have anybody. So in other words, I have to make it as an artist, but if you don't make it out here in this world, you're still going to be good. Now that was wrong.
And then he said something about a mama too.
What he said about the mom?
What he said, and he goes, I bet your mama had something to do with you making this decision or something. He threw something at the mama. He threw a shit at the
Well,
mama.
he said,
And
I
that's
bet
when she
you,
said
yeah,
F you. That's when she
yeah,
said F you.
yeah. And
Talk
she
about
said,
somebody mama.
well, no. What he said? Well, no. She said "f you" about the money. It was
Yeah.
about the money part,
No, he
and
said something
he
about a
said it.
mama.
No, he said something about the mother. He said, "I bet you everyone knew." I watched it 3 times, Kevin. He
I
said, "I
just
bet
watched
you,"
it. I just
but he
watched
said, "I
it.
bet you everybody knew
Yeah.
before I did,"
And then
and
he
that's when he said the
then he
that.
threw shade on her mama. And then she said F you. He talked about
All
the
right,
mama.
all right. Well, he
I
mentioned
saw
the
it. You
mother.
saw
Okay,
that. He
that's fine.
said,
No, wait. No, she said get the F out. No, she didn't, Tia.
Actually, she didn't. Yeah, I thought she did too. She didn't. She said
She
the F
didn't.
word after she told him to get out. When she said F you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We must
that was
always do what's best for us. It's supposed to be, it will be. Yes. Yes. Yeah. You have to do what's best for you. You do. Hmm. Because
mhm.
if it's meant to be, it will be, as we see as the movie goes on, right? That they were meant to be, and in the end, the way it pretty much played out is they were, right? So if we
Oh
get
please,
past,
messy, messy, messy.
well, yeah, well, if we move past the scene where she kicked him out, he left, and they show us year later where she actually moves to Chicago. She goes to Chicago, she meets someone else, and then he ends up having a show in Chicago, and they run into each other again. So here's where there's a little cross in the road between the way you feel about the scene and the way I felt about the scene. But he has this show at an art gallery. She comes to the show. She comes to the show with her current boyfriend. She runs into him, and pretty much, she sees him. She has to introduce her current boyfriend to him. She doesn't even know how to introduce her current boyfriend to him. Huh? Don't talk about the mama. Oh God, don't talk about the mama. Um, Um, he pretty much was like, I bet you your mother and all of them knew about your decision to go to Chicago before I did. So he was in his little feelings. And for her to be on the couch and say, what do you think? That was his other reason why he was really pissed, Kevin. For you to be on the couch 2 seconds ago to say, what do you think about me going to Chicago? So now we in the bedroom and you going to Chicago. Well, that's the problem because, like he said to her, you already made the decision. So why did you even ask me? So see, that was messy on her part. Deep down, she wanted to see him, I think. Um, deep down, she wanted to see him, I think.
At the show.
Okay, so okay. I'm debating between, but see, what I was saying is, I don't see her be like she was never her character wasn't messy, right? Yeah, in Chicago. So her character wasn't messy. So my thing was I didn't think on purpose she brought her man there to the show expecting to see him. I
Back that
can
up
I
again.
can I can go with that she wanted to see him. It might have been hoping, but I don't think she brought her man there expecting to see him. I didn't even really, I thought, to be honest with you, Tia, I thought that because she was into the art, they just happened to be going to a museum and it happened to be his show.
The lady before
That was my take on
the lady he was talking to said, I saw
it.
your
Oh,
artwork. She said, I saw your
yeah.
artwork in New York. She said, I saw Chocolate City in New York. And I thought
That
it
was
was
a
love.
random lady though, Kevin. That had
But
nothing to do with her.
listen, Linda, listen. She
Uh-huh.
said, I saw your art show in New York, right?
Right.
So to me, he has a buzz. And if you, hey,
Hey,
Sassy girl, what's up? And so if you got a buzz, it's just like an author who does book signings and he does a tour. You're going to follow him or follow her. He's an artist. He started to get some buzz. So people who are into art, and remember, it wasn't like he had to introduce her to art. She was already into art. So
no, that I know,
I'm
yeah.
sure in the Chicago paper or some Chicago magazine, the next new art exhibit was coming up, and people knew he was going to be there. That lady was there because she said she saw his artwork in New York. And so so if she knew he was going to be there and she follows art, what makes you think that she didn't know he was going to be there?
So, Latia, you saying her new boyfriend liked his art? I didn't
He,
catch that. I'm gonna have to watch it
no, he did.
again.
He did like his art. He was
No, he
commenting
has. I
hard.
know he. But hold on, Kevin. What I'm saying is, did he say his like? Because she said to him, "This is one of the artists." When they was in the art gallery, when she told her boyfriend, she said, this is what was his name again? Um, what was the character's name again? Latif? I don't know. Why am I saying Latif? Whatever. She said, this is so and so. He's one of the artists.
Isaiah, right?
Yeah, Isaiah. Yeah. She said, this is Isaiah. He's one of the artists. So how are you getting that her boyfriend liked his art? I know he said he liked it while he was there. He said, "Oh, this art is like good. It's really good." But I don't get it that he knew ahead of time. You think he knew his work. All right, I'm going to have to go back to that scene again. Um, because see, what I was saying is she even knew he was going to be there and you bringing your man there, you wouldn't tell him ahead of time, like, listen, this artist, I used to date him or I know him or something like that. You going to wait till y'all get to the place and then try to explain it. Because remember when Isaiah, when he asked, like, how do y'all know each other? Isaiah had to answer because she couldn't even get the words out of her mouth. So I don't know. We have to. That still is out for debate. Um, but I will
See,
say this. Go ahead.
the answer to your question is the next scene. Your next scene answers your question
About her knowing that he was going to be there.
about her messiness because you said she wasn't messy, but then she
No, but
was
I
messy.
don't think I don't. But see, you're taking that as messy. I'm not taking that as messy. I'm taking that next scene as he was straight up her soulmate. Okay. And she moved on. She tried to move on. She tried to move on. And she wasn't married. Now, if she was married to this guy, the boyfriend that came with her, that would be a whole nother situation. He's a boyfriend. He's a boyfriend. They not married, and they don't even establish in the movie how long they've been dating. We don't know if she been dating that brother for a month, 2 months, 90 days, a whole year. We don't know any of that, and we don't know if they was exclusive. We don't know.
I'm shocked to hear this from you. I'm shocked. I'm
Why are you
shocked.
trying to hear this from me?
This
They
is not
wasn't.
true.
They
This is
wasn't.
not
Oh yeah, it is me 100%.
because
They
I'm gonna tell you
wasn't.
something.
Wait,
No,
hold
no.
on.
Let me explain something to you. Let me explain it real
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Had it been flipped, had it been flipped, and it was the him with the her, and he did what he did, you'd have been he all type of messy. He did. But when she do it, now you got excuses.
No, I don't have excuses. You didn't let me finish explaining myself. So what I want to say is this: is one, the way this movie played out, Isaiah and her was soulmates. You notice they never portrayed him dating anybody else. But he gets to Chicago, she got a whole man, and that's fine, whatever, because he didn't speak to her this whole time. They wasn't in contact with each other this whole time. So she moved on with her life. He just so happened to not be able to move on with his. Okay? But let's get back to the scene here. She has a friend. I guess she did call him the boyfriend in the art gallery or whatever the case may be, right? But this boyfriend, again, we don't know if he's a boyfriend of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year. She only been going a year. We don't know how long he's been a boyfriend. But we do know this. It is not more than 365 days. So
Doesn't
he waits.
matter.
But let me finish. Let me finish. So he comes there, you know, and Isaiah just says to her, listen, meet me, come to my show back in DC. She goes. I'm sure she didn't. Maybe she did tell the man, maybe she didn't. I don't know. I can't deal with that right now. I'm dealing with her and her soulmate, Isaiah, okay? That's what I'm dealing with right now, okay? So she goes to meet him, and the words he couldn't say 365 years ago, he manages to say them now. All I can say is communication is key, but sometimes you learn to communicate later on, and maybe the ship would have sailed, maybe not. In his case, he was fortunate. the ship didn't sail. He asked the keyword though, because he's nobody's home wrecker. You know what the keyword he asked her, Kevin?
Was she happy?
What? There you go, bam. And what did she say?
Don't
Don't
ask
ask
me
me
that.
that. There you
So you
go.
already knew.
So he was not. He's nobody's home wrecker. If she would have said, in my mind, if she would have said, "I'm happy," he would have went on about his business and sold his art, and he would have been painting and doing whatever. But because she did not say she was happy, he did what he had to do. Go ahead,
Do
Kevin.
you
I'm
know?
listening.
Okay, let me go back. Do you know they didn't even have a conversation? Did you ever stop and think about that?
Wait, say that again.
They didn't even have a conversation.
Didn't what?
They didn't have a conversation. Did you notice that?
Who?
Isaiah and the girl, all he left a voicemail. They didn't even have a
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
Like, oh, you know what? I miss you. Or I love for you to come to this show. You know, I got you, whatever, whatever. It was a voicemail. She jumped on a plane for a voicemail.
Whole yes, yes. A
It
voicemail
could
to
have been a text
from her
message.
soulmate. From her soulmate. This is not no random person. This not no random. This not no random. It's your soulmate.
She they didn't talk
Yes,
in
I don't
over a
need to
year.
talk.
And you gonna jump on a plane from a voicemail.
Yes. For your soulmate. This is not just anybody, Kevin. She's not just jumping on no plane for no random. This is her soulmate. Yes, thank you, Latia. It can happen. Yes, it can happen. 100%. When the connection is there, it's there. When the connection is not there, it's not there. So he left
Okay,
a
so hold
voicemail.
on. So hold
Yes.
on. So
Uh-huh.
she jumped on a plane for a voicemail.
Yes.
She comes over there.
Yes.
She goes out with him.
Uh-huh.
Says, "Are you happy?" She said, "Don't ask me that."
Right.
Then he said, "What do you got time?" Of course, she had time.
Yes.
And then they
You
butt
always
naked.
got time for your soulmate. You always got
Yeah,
time for your
and
soulmate. Yes,
he butt
continue.
naked. And what did I say to you I said I hope Ahmad I said I hope Ahmad wasn't serious because he because if he thought she was the one, she was with somebody else. So that was messy. And so whatever, that's not my man. So all of a sudden now she up with some other dude. So now how do you play that? You know.
I'm gonna
Now
tell
I
you how
will
you
say
play that,
this
Kevin.
though. The
Mm.
next then it started to get messy again because when he took a phone call, she got upset. It's like he was taking a phone call from another woman. He was taking a phone call about his artwork. That part I didn't like because she seems like dude got to get his hustle on. He trying to get his money on. You can't jump
He
up
was
and get
messy with
mad.
that.
She
I'm
was
gonna
she,
give you that.
it,
I'm gonna
but
give you that 100%. On for his side, she could be a whole problem when it comes to his work. And I didn't get that either. I was like, boo, or are you still just not communicating? Or are you bitter from old feelings? This man has to work. A man don't work. The Bible said a man don't work, he don't eat. Like you expecting it's not like you said, he's not taking some call from a girlfriend. He's taking call about his art show, his artwork. So I felt like I was like, I didn't like that either. I was like, she's always gonna be a problem with this with his profession. But yet he allows her to follow her dreams and she wants to block his. That can be problematic. But let's get back to the fact of because you're concerned about Ahmad, and you know what? I have a smidgen of concern for him because I will say this, Kevin. You do know when you meet someone if they're still distracted by someone else. Now, if you want to ignore what you see, what you feel, what you know is there, then you know what? You got to be prepared for the wrath that that's going to bring upon you. If you get with someone and you clearly can kind of tell they not still over their ex and you want to proceed because you want to be a superhero and you feel like you're going to change their mind, well, then you got to catch the wrath of what you're doing. So Ahmad had to
okay,
catch the wrath. Ahmad
stop,
caught the wrath.
stop. Let's talk
Go ahead.
about the pink. Let's talk about the pink elephant in the room, the one you keep avoiding.
What is that?
Why didn't she just say that when she used to date him?
Say that
Miss,
again.
I can't tell everything. Why didn't she just come out and say I used to date him? What was so
Well,
bad? We all got exes. Why couldn't she just come out and say
well, she
we
couldn't
used to
say
mess
the
around? That was
same
my
reason,
boo.
Kevin.
That was
That,
no. Tell
no,
the truth and
no,
shame the
no,
devil.
no, no,
Tell
no.
the truth and
The,
shame the devil. That's all I'm
no,
saying.
you
Tell
want
me.
to know why, Kevin? You want to know why? The same reason. I hate to go back to this. The same reason why what's the name did not tell
You're breaking
what is
up.
her darn name? If we're back to sex life. Why she didn't tell Connor about Brad.
Okay, you broke up. I didn't hear words you said.
Okay, I said back to sex life. The same reason why she didn't tell Connor about Brad is the same reason why this chick didn't say I used to date Isaiah, because that was her soulmate. That's her Brad.
But the difference is so. But look how it blew up in Billy's face.
Well, this ain't gonna
So
blow up in
so
her face because it's less than 365 days that Ahmad has been in the picture. She just met
okay.
Ahmad
So
2 seconds
am I
ago.
so
She gonna
so
be all right.
am I supposed to know the woman that I'm with right now? And we walk in and we run into her dude, and I'm not supposed to know that's her dude. Is that messy?
That was her ex.
So if I'm with a woman and I run into an ex girlfriend at a party and I don't say nothing, but then she finds out that's my ex, do I look like a liar?
If you would clearly ask the question, yes, you do. So if you want to call her a liar, Kevin, for lying to Ahmad, all right, fine. But she didn't say anything. Remember, Isaiah answered the question for her. He
Okay,
didn't say a word. So
so
that ain't
okay,
on her.
so
That ain't on her back. That ain't on her back. Isaiah
you
answered the
know
question for her. He said we were friends.
put yourself in his shoes. Walk up to the woman. She go, you say, well, how do you know her? And she says, oh, we used to be old friends. And then you find out 3 months later they
No,
used to
I'm
live
not
together.
going to find out. No, no, no. Hold on. Time out. Time out. I'm not going to find out 3 months later because guess what? Before we even hit the steps to leave that museum, that art gallery, wherever we at, I got questions. Okay? Because clearly she stuttered when her man asked her, and dude had the answer for her. So I'm be like, yo, why you couldn't answer? Did y'all used to date? She said y'all were friends. What type of friends? Friends with benefits? Friends that were sleeping together? No, I'm asking questions. So I'm not gonna find out 3 months later. I'm gonna find out on the spot. I'm gonna
So
get my
then why so are you supposed so back to the question.
uh
In that situation, are you supposed to tell?
there's some things in a relationship, Kevin, you tell on an as need basis. And
I'm
because
not
you ran
saying
into
tell me
the no,
about
listen,
every ex
listen,
you've been with.
listen, listen. And because you ran into this man at the art gallery, then you should have just said after when you got in the car, look, we used to date. It wasn't nothing. Let's go get our chicken. Wherever we going. Let's go eat. Let's go eat. Let's go eat. You know what I mean? No big deal. Now, if we want to move further, they don't address this in the movie. But if I was about to go fly out and see dude, then I would use my words. I would use my words. I would absolutely not have flown
Oh, she
out there
said
to
she was
see
going
him.
home to see her mom. I guarantee you, she said she was going to see
She
her parents.
probably did. She probably did.
So,
She probably did. But I'm just saying, at that point, I would have because she already knew she was weak to him. Because if she was done with Isaiah when she ran into him in the museum, she could have straight up told him, oh, told her man, we used to date, whatever. This is Isaiah, this is dot dot dot, whatever the case may be. But she couldn't even tell him. So she still, I knew, well, we all knew right there she had feelings for him too. Because when she saw him. If her man wasn't with her, she would have been all over Isaiah in that art gallery.
First of all, she spotted him and was staring at him while her man was looking at the art.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's call it what. She knew he was gonna be there because she looked him up and down, and then he
He
got
ain't
some money
know.
down, so he had his glad rags on, and she was looking at him, and he looked like something, and she made sure she was gonna look like something.
No,
That was
first of
I
all,
don't care. She brought
no,
that fool
no.
there
Let
on
me tell you
purpose.
something, Kevin. She always dressed throughout that whole movie, so you can't just say, "Oh, she just dressed because." No, that thing she was fly the whole movie, the whole movie. No matter what she did, whether she was running, exercising, going wherever. Even when they went to meet the parents, she all cute and he looking like he about to go paint a piece of art
Well,
with
I'm
his
just
hat
saying
on
what she looked,
backwards and all of that other nonsense. So no,
but
she was always cute.
still, like I said before, she because when you see that scene and she's looking at him, he's talking to the lady. She came in and she spots him. She knew he was gonna be there. She knew he was gonna be there. I'm sorry, you're not gonna win that argument with me, right, Tia? She knew he was gonna be there.
Oh God, I would have let it go. No, yeah, Tia, I'm gonna have to. We gonna have to do a poll, Kevin. I just can't be convinced right now that she knew he was gonna be there. I just can't be convinced that she's that messy. Like I don't know. I will say this.
Thank
Tia
you.
said absolutely. I, you think she that messy? She would bring the man with her to this art gallery? To me, if I knew if that was me and I knew he's gonna be there,
If you
I
want to
would have
sleep with
went
him,
by myself. I would have went by myself.
but she wanted to put a spark in him. She wanted to say, "Oh, look at me."
Nah, that wasn't her character. That I'm not going for.
How's not a
Nah.
character when she's sleeping with him when she still got the other boyfriend?
See, but you taking that as being straight messy though, Kevin. What I'm saying to you is that that was her soulmate.
So that makes it better.
So well, you could call it better, worse, or whatever. I'm telling you how that ended up happening. That was her soulmate. Do I think if it was just anybody, would she have done that and would that have happened? Absolutely not. That's her soulmate. It's different.
So let me ask you a question, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You're in a relationship.
Right.
A man cheats on you with his soulmate. Does it hurt less?
It's not about it hurting less or whatever the case may be. It's going to hurt. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to say, I'm not saying that it was right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm telling you that her character is not just about messiness. I'm saying to you that all of this transpired because he was her soulmate. Okay? That's why I'm telling you it happened. And I'm saying to you is that there are real connections out there like that. I'm sorry Ahmad was part of he was collateral damage, but it was, sorry, but that was her soulmate. And like I said, Kevin, it couldn't have been more than 365 days of them being together because she was only out in Chicago for a year. So literally, she didn't land the plane, meet him, start dating him, and was with him for a whole year. He might be 30 days in. I don't know. We can't worry. Ahmad is all right.
No, I'm not saying it isn't. But what I'm saying to you is, if I know,
He wasn't saying, "Look at me, Kevin."
what I'm saying to you is this: if I know, okay, you in town for your book signing, and I want to see you, I'm not
Right.
going to show up with a shorty on my arm. Just not.
So
Even
that's
if
what I'm
something
saying
pops
to
off.
you. So that's what I'm saying to you. So you agree with me? If she knew he was going to be there, why would she come with Ahmad?
But everything in there, like I said, the woman says, I saw your show in New York. So I'm saying is this. He knew he was going to Chicago. Trust me, there is some type of advertisement or marketing saying he's going to be in Chicago. Being that she's in art, is in a people who are into certain things. I know what I'm into. So if I'm into certain events, they have these events in these magazines and these local magazines and newspapers was going on. So she knew he was going to be there. And I felt like maybe she didn't expect to feel what she felt when she saw him. I would give you that much. Like when she saw him, she didn't expect it, but when she saw him, she walked up in and she was staring him up and down. Because if she wasn't no parts of him, she'd have said, Ahmad, let's go this way before he
No,
saw her.
I said that, but here's the thing. Let me say this to you. She knew how she felt because when he said, "Are you happy?" and she said, "Don't ask me that." She didn't just realize I'm not happy. She knew that she was passing time, and maybe Ahmad was the rebound.
Oh, no, that was, he is.
Well, well,
It came
poor,
up the
poor
board.
Ahmad.
She came up the board, you know what I mean? But the smart thing is to let that go before you marry that,
Well,
like
first
Billy
of
did
all,
with Brad.
let me tell you this. She might have met somebody that she would have married had she not seen him again, Isaiah again. But I'm telling you this, in the heart, in the core, in the soul of her,
Hmm.
Isaiah was etched in her brain and in her heart.
Hmm.
And that's why their connection, when she got that voicemail, she booked her ticket probably 2 seconds later and she was out there and that was it.
But he got some bread, so I hope he sent her a ticket. Now he make a
Well,
couple dollars. I mean, that should be the right thing to do. You making you a couple dollars now. He dressed a little nicer now. You saw the bed. You saw how the bed looked. The bed looked nice. The apartment looked a little nicer, and there's stuff everywhere. So I hope he would have sent her a ticket. I'm just
well,
saying.
he couldn't have sent her a ticket the way the movie played out because remember he said, "I'm glad you came." And I don't know if he had her address and all that. There was a
He
lot
sent
left
tickets
to
through
be
email.
unsaid.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the way he was and the way she was, Kevin, neither one of them were not generous to each other. For him to even send his artwork to her in the very beginning, 2 seconds pretty much after meeting her, that tells like his generosity and speaking to his character. He had nothing else to give. You understand what I mean? He didn't have money like that. And he took his artwork. I mean, art supplies are expensive, and they're really expensive to a starving artist. So he took that artwork out of his home and he sent it to her.
Mm-hmm.
So again, his character was never like a cheap person. So I could picture that he would have sent her a ticket. But I mean, do I think he sent it in this time in terms of like the way the movie played out? No, because he was shocked that, she even actually came. He wasn't expecting her.
So now let's move to the next part, which I thought was a great part.
Uh-huh.
Was she saw that when she saw that painting.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
The way
when
it
she
ended. The way it ended, I want to choke them, but I do get it. Like as I watched it again, I mean, I
Tia
got
liked
it.
the way it ended.
Understood it. Huh?
I think Tia felt the same way you felt.
Yeah, I was like, yo, y'all gave us a year later, 6 months later for everything else. You could have gave us one more year later, whatever, and just had them together. But well, again, they did a semi inspection of using their words when they got together when she first flew in because she said, "I missed you," and he was like, "I love you." So, they still are struggling with the communication piece, but that's that. And I think that if they do ever have a part two to this movie and show us more, I think that's where they're going to struggle at is like they're still lacking with the communication. Girlfriend, I'm right there with you. I wanted to jump through the TV. I said, is that it? Are they kidding me right now? Um, but so yes, but see,
I thought
he
it was funny.
never stopped thinking about her. And that piece of artwork just showed how she was etched in his brain just as much as he was etched in her brain. Um, so if I will say this, I love the way that they portrayed and they showed us how much and how deeply connected they were as a couple. And I have to say this before we kind of close out, that I also enjoyed their the cousins and the friends. Everybody in this movie as friends, they wanted to see their friends win. Um, his one friend that was an artist and wanted to make sure and told him like how he can become a successful artist. His cousin wanted to see him win. The cousin's girlfriend, had her coffee shop and she was giving her friend free coffee as she was going through law school. So it was a group of friends who all were like had a nice circle of love, and no, there was no jealousy. They all wanted to see each other win. So I really did enjoy that too. So I enjoyed the wardrobe. I enjoyed the people that they utilized for each role, because it was just a array of like chocolate and just color
Chocolate. That's what I enjoyed the
and
most.
just like it was just gorgeous.
With dark skinned
Made
people.
me You know what, Tam, though, that darn too, at the end still, they were struggling with their communication skills. Because I think where the main female character in this movie really loved, I think where her struggle was, how do you expect your man to have money but you don't want him to work? Like, life don't work like that. Um, and she had an issue with him pouring himself into his work, but it's who he is. He was an artist. It was like,
But
so that's the piece where I wanted to just choke her and shake her, like, girl, go ahead.
now I got mad when he said I love you, because I'm saying now you wait for all this to say this. But I will say this. Every feeling he had, every emotion he had was in that painting.
Yes,
Anything he wanted to say to her was in that painting. And
right.
that's why she was speechless, because she had nothing to say. That's why I was like this. You can assume, but I'm gonna just say she moved back to DC or stayed
Yeah,
back to get something. This body, even if they ended it, I'd be surprised at any other turn.
I do. Yes, totally. I got the assumption that they were back together. Um, but I wish they would have showed us that. They took us through all of these emotions. They took us on an emotional roller coaster with those two, right? They showed us this great courtship in the beginning of how they got together, they fell in love, they were just in sync and so close. And once again, I will say she had some very great characteristics about her. Um, I mean, she was caring. She loved him, and she never threw up money in his face. That's a big deal. So she never threw up money in his face. So y'all took us through this emotional roller coaster. Only at the end to not give us the happily ever after ending story. I mean, we can make the assumption, but let us know for sure that like these two just went off in the sunset and lived happily ever after. They ticked me off with that end. I couldn't even believe the credits were rolling up. I'm like, are you serious right now? So, but overall, hands down, 100%. Like I
What
said,
show was you
I'm
watching?
only, huh?
Martia, what show was you watching?
Girl, every time you turned around, she was like, well, you got to remember, Tia, remember when, before they actually broke up, she was like, she was like, you're never really here. You're always in the studio. And she said, even when you're here, you're not here.
Also,
But then,
her girlfriends was one sitting around having coffee, saying, "Girl, you know he got to work."
yep, yep.
Her
And
girlfriends
they
even put her
said, and she
on
was like,
notice.
I just want to help him. And they were like, yo, he's a man. He doesn't want you to help him. He wants to help himself. And then in addition to that, after she was already out in Chicago doing her law thing, and then she flew back to DC to see his show, and they slept together. And it's the minute he got a phone call about his artwork, he was like, "Give me a minute." She got pissed. She was messy when it came to his work. She was a little messy with that, and I think that's the piece in her where she would need to grow up and realize that, as adults building your career, you're not going to have all of this time to be in someone's face 24/7, because you're building a career. It's got to be some give and take. It's definitely got to be some give and take. So, I mean, overall, I would say it was just an excellent movie. Maybe I up it to a 9.8. Like I said, I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10, only because I was like, I wanted the ending to be different. It wasn't a horrific ending, but since they took us on this roller coaster ride, I just wanted them to end it on a sweeter note and not me making up stuff in my head about, how they ended. But knowing all of the things they went through in their relationships on this show, what would be your best advice, in terms of relationships, Kevin, so we can close this out? So they had their communication issues. They, had their issues of trying to establish, like, are we exclusive? Are we not? They were navigating, building up their careers and trying to just be with each other. So, what is your best advice you want to give, as we close this out?
Pull up that last statement from Tia.
This one?
hmm I think
Oh,
that's a very true statement. Like everyone does it, and people. That's an issue when you deal with people who work. When you work a 7 to 3, an 8 to 4, 9 to 5 shift, and
hmm
you out the office by a certain time. I'm not saying lawyers can't work late, but when you don't understand that field, sometimes people get, I in my job and what I do, I remember being accused of having affairs and doing things because no one works that many hours, and no one, you know what I mean? Because they're basing it on what they do.
hmm
So just understand that part of it. And like I said, communication is the key, but that's any relationship. But I think she needs to. That was the issue I had with her, was not realizing that his job is not a 9 to 5. And the issue with him was, we understand you got to work. We understand you put on a show, but you don't ghost somebody who buys expensive tickets. You know what I mean? So communication is the key. I thought he was selfish on that, and I thought she was selfish on the job thing. That's selfish. I mean, we all have our selfish ways, and I would tell people you always got to have your little me time. But I didn't think he gave her any indication that he was doing something behind her back. You know what I mean? He seemed to be a stand-up dude, and yeah, true. And so, he's a stand-up guy. The character was a stand-up guy. Um, so I think she did support him, but I thought at certain points they were selfish at the wrong times. So I mean, you pick and choose. So my advice is, don't be too selfish, and communicate. We all have our selfish moments, but don't be too selfish and communicate.
I do like that. Yeah, we do. We all have our moments. And you are correct. But I will, to me, it's a mixture of a lot of things. Like I said, I do appreciate her holding back her communication the night of the dance, the Alvin Ellie, situation, because it could have blown up into something bigger. Um, but the thing is, you can hold the conversation, but you can't hold the conversation too long, right? So because then it just builds up, and that's
Mm.
how they came to the blow up in the bedroom. It wasn't just that night; it was a mixture of everything, right? So it was like more for them to like talk about and say that they didn't really say. And yes, I don't think she understood what it really took for him to make these paintings, because sometimes I think people do a job so well and so seamlessly that others looking on the outside in, they think, oh, it's nothing for them. But it may seem like it's nothing for them, but it's a lot. It's just seeming like that because they do it so well. But
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that they don't need that time that they need to do it. So I think the biggest thing, he had been working for that show for a long time, and unfortunately, it came out at the time they were in the height of their relationship. Very true. Very true. So and it's like, again, I think if he could have communicated more, or maybe she could have came to the studio. I'm not saying every night, but maybe one night if she would have sat in the studio and maybe studied while he was painting, she would have seen, you know, all that it takes for him to just finish a piece of artwork, or just even get maybe halfway through a piece of artwork. So you got to learn how to mix things up, and you got to learn how to maybe share time in a non-traditional way. Okay. So maybe you're missing the person because she's like, even when you're here, you're not here. And I have heard that from a lot of couples. It's like, we're in this same house together, but I'm still alone. That's a problem. Like, how
Hmm.
do you feel alone and you physically have that person that you with is there?
Hmm.
Um, y'all got a lot going on when someone's still feeling lonely like that. So it's like, how do you rectify that? How do you fix that? And you have to think about things like that. So you have to think about, when you are together, even if you got something on your mind, how do you decompress and still be interactive with your partner? So communication is definitely key. Understanding each other and the different things that both of y'all have going on in your life is another piece. And respecting the different things that each of you have going on in your life, and knowing that no one's is more important than the other. Even if I'm a doctor and, I'm dating the bus driver, we're both important, right? You got to drive your people to work. Maybe I got to save a life, but which one means more? They both are important, and they're both important to, each one of us individually. And so whatever is important to your partner should also be important to you. So you just got to learn that balance. So anyway, it's communication, it's understanding, it's a balance. And in addition to that, I hate to say this, but if a soulmate is involved and that person did not get over their soulmate, Kevin,
Don't
then,
touch them.
well, you wouldn't know that though. That's the thing. It's so easy to say stuff like that. You don't know that. You may not know until that soulmate comes back into that person's life. And sometimes they may not even know. They may have thought, I was over that person until they see him again. Then you
Mm.
just collateral damage.
Well, you know what? Well, leave my collateral ass alone. Leave my collateral ass alone. Don't bother me. I ain't bothering you. You could have left me alone. My collateral alone. I'm good. Ain't got time.
well, Well, listen, Kevin, listen, we're 23 minutes over. Again, we want to thank everybody that stopped in the building tonight and hung out with us. Tomorrow we will be live at our normal time, 9:15 p.m., talking relationships. We're starting off the conversation relationships, talking about hair. We're talking about weaves. We're talking about braids. We're talking about it all. And how the men feel about the woman in their hair. So, Latia, thanks for stopping in the building. We always love when you're here. Tamara, thank you for stopping through. Sassy, our girl Sassy, if you're still here, big thank you for stopping through. Just trying to make sure I got, our last comments in there. And, yep. So Thank you, everybody, and hope we see y'all tomorrow at 9:15. We're trying to keep it within the hour, but sometimes the conversations drag into, a little bit more, and it gets a little bit more wordy. But again, thank you for stopping by, Chef Kev. Appreciate you being in the building. Talk to you soon.
Deuces.
Bye. Bye. Good night, everyone. Don't forget, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.